This is Todd Haberkorn, and I've put a fire in your belly as Natsu Dragneel from Fairy Tale, or literally hundreds of other things that are hopefully stuck in your head. And Paul Castro Jr. is about to get stuck in your head because you're going to subscribe to the Points of Experience podcast. I know it! Do it! Do it now!
We do not have a voting mechanism for favorites in terms of intros, but that might be the best that we've had. Today we talk with Todd Haberkorn, as you've just heard, who is quite literally one of my favorites in terms of his work in this industry as a voice actor. He has worked on hundreds of titles, and I mean that literally, like over 500 titles, and even more with the episodes that he's done. He's voiced in such, the most popular series, I think, in anime and video games of all time: Dragon Ball Z, Fairy Tale as Natsu, Full Metal Alchemist, Attack on Titan, Soul Eater, and the list goes on and on and on. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Things will keep coming to me, and I'll probably keep saying them as I talk, but I don't want to do that, so I'm going to move on. Todd Haberkorn, today we talk about his entire experience getting into this industry, diversifying his talents, finding a work-life balance, all the things that make him happy in life, and why it's more important to lean towards the light than it is the dark side. All of that and more coming up. But before you do that, like Todd just told you, make sure you are subscribed, because we've been following you. We've been noticing your interactions, and we've been noticing you're watching the video, but you're not subscribed, and that must be changed right now. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button too, because you're doing the same thing. It's just as easy to do both. And afterwards, or now, you can choose, hit pause, leave us a review if so inclined, or a comment, and let us know what you're thinking about, what you had for dinner, what you are considering for tomorrow's breakfast, whatever you want. Keep it clean though. Without further ado, we've got the amazing, talented, kind, and positive Todd Haberkorn. Todd, again, thank you so much for doing this. This is such a treat for me to be able to sit and talk with you today.
Well, good. Thanks for having me and having a cool setup to do it.
No, this is actually, I really love this software, and it's cool to be able to speak with people virtually. Even though we are escaping the pandemic, it's still kind of a favorite pastime of mine to be able to talk via Zoom or whatever platform this is, you know?
Sure. Yeah, totally.
So are you okay with some good morning compliments first before we just hop into this, and I can just kind of get the praises out of the way, and then hopefully
sure. Well, like parking validation, I'll never say no.
Amazing. So, Todd, you have been somebody in my career. I mean, this is whether you remember any of this or not is here nor there, but you've been somebody in my life, in my career, that I've idolized and really just appreciated how much hard work you do. You're all over the place. Before I even got into voiceover, your performances are something that I've always just... I looked at it, somebody who kind of sounded similar to me and was a really good actor in the voice acting space, and I just really idolized those type of performances. And then to just see all of the things that you do in this industry. I mean, you're not just a voice actor. I mean, you're doing behind the scenes production. You have your own Twitch. You're streaming. You're doing conventions. You're making your own content. It's just been something that, to me, to see somebody like you in your career, and I think, if I'm correct, looking at the amount of the people that we've had on this podcast, I think you have the most credits on IMDb of any of the other actors we've had on this series. So your work ethic, I mean, somebody, I don't know if you still are, but I believe you've had a vegan, at least you appreciate animals and that type of lifestyle. Just everything about you, you really are a really down-to-earth human being, and you're someone who I've looked towards as sort of a North Star in terms of, like, what can I get out of life in this industry and all the things surrounding it. So I just really appreciate that, and thank you for just being you, but also really kind of going above and beyond in all the things that you do in this industry.
Well, thank you, Paul, for saying that. I really appreciate the comments and the feedback, because I never, I don't think anyone thinks of them like for me, it's like I'm just trying to get to the top of my hill, and I forget sometimes that we're in an industry, obviously you included, that has eyes on it, that people see. And so I have I had a very kind of lonely upbringing. And so like it was during those formative times when a lot of that was going on. So it's like, for me, it's like I just was like always nose to the grindstone and just go and go until my battery runs out. But along the way, I think it's important to at least be aware that you're not alone in the journey, that people are seeing it, and for better or worse, and
Sure.
that it takes it's certainly not a solo adventure. There are so many people that make micro decisions and micro choices along the way that help propel someone to wherever they are in the universe.
Sure.
But for me, it's it all started with, I guess, as it does for a lot of people, is like, proving to our moms that we can do this. And especially with me having coming from a Asian background, proving to my mom that I didn't necessarily need to be a doctor or a lawyer to make a little wave somewhere. So, thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. And I totally understand. I think I have some of those same things with, my parents. I was going to college to become a doctor when I decided to make the very financially smart switch to pursue the arts. And my family was a bit like, wait, what are you acting? When have you ever done that?
Are you the only entertainment person in your family?
Well, in my immediate family, yes. I do have like second cousins who are also in this industry, but I wasn't connected with them until I had already unfortunately made a name for myself in some way or shape. I had tried to reach out in some ways, and they were just kind of like, listen, there's nothing we can do for you here. Like, you got to kind of figure this out on your own to a certain degree, and you have to do the work. You can't just kind of be like, hey, I want to do this. Help me, like, make this happen for me. And that was a great kind of lesson for me to learn, was you have to put in the hard work. You have to find your own voice as an artist and whatever it is that makes you unique. And so I really kind of navigated this industry alone for quite a while. And with one of my cousins, I wound up producing a movie later on in life. But yeah, it was just kind of like showing my mom that, like you said, I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to not, throw away potentially a very financially stable career to do it.
What were you going to be as a doctor?
I majored in biology when I went to college, and I always, you hear everyone say like, oh yeah, anesthesiologists, they always make the most money. So I was like, that sounds pretty good. I've never had money. My family never had money. I want to do that. Mm-hmm. So I thought that would be a route. And then I thought about dentistry for a minute, but it never got far enough. I only did 2 years of bio and hopping around majors before I ever settled on a theater major, which I believe you also did as well.
Fellow theater major, yeah.
Yes.
And it's interesting because in theater, I the games that we would play and the things that we would do, you never do those again. Like you never
no zip zap zop in life.
Yeah, it's like I did occasionally, like for theater plays for avant-garde theater companies, but I find that when you get, at least with the older actors that I was working with, they don't want to do that anymore. They're like, no, we don't put those games away. Like, let's get down to the work. And at the time I was like, but zip zap, like, what about zip zap zap? And then as you get a little older, you're like, yeah, no, I get it. No zip zap zap. Like, I think where it comes from is that I think the way that an older crowd approaches it is that they approach the games as if that it takes them back to their times when they learned it in school, and they think they're being told, you don't know what you're doing, you need this training. But it's not that. It's like, no, this is like a team building thing. And I think that it wasn't messaged properly. And so when you come at it like, no, this is just like a fun thing we're going to do to like loosen everybody up, as opposed to, I need to teach you how to do what it is you're here to do. I think maybe that might be a better approach for all the the old battle axes that are opposed to zip zap zop.
Exactly. I always thought of this career in this industry very similar in a certain way to certain sports. And, you never see an athlete just go out to a game and them not have shot 100 free throws or, stretched out beforehand. And I think when you think about actors in this industry, the same way that those games can provide team building or loosening you up and making it sure so that the second you walk up to a mic, it's not the first words you've spoken that morning, presumably at like 8 a.m., why that's not incorporated a little bit more to a certain degree. It's kind of like, all right, show up, business. Even in film and TV, sometimes you do like a rehearsal walkthrough of the set. But in voiceover, there really is that demand because of oftentimes budget and speed to just be like, I've hired you, show up and let's like get rocking.
So many times I find that in stage, because oftentimes there's no money in it, that there's not a clock. There's a clock in the sense that like, okay, we're here from 6 to 10, or we're here from 10 to 6 if it's an equity contract or whatever. And that's a long time each day, but they're already kind of paying for it in a way because they're paying it by the week. Yeah. So it's like, use the time as you want. Whereas with VO, it's like, all right, we've cobbled together this budget and we're having to pay this much per hour for this studio, and we're paying the director and we're paying the engineer and we got the actor in, and we got to really maximize this time when I think what would for me, what helps balance that is the fact that I always try to work with the best people I can, which sounds like, well, isn't everybody trying to do that? Not always. Like they and I think that when you try to work with the best people, that you earn that time back. Any time that you would take to get familiar with each other, get comfortable with each other in the session, you make that up with their efficiency as a professional. But too often we miss those ingredients in there, and it's like, get in there and really kind of get to work and get down to it, and let's keep rocking and let's keep going. And so the VO is those times when it's fulfilling. It on one hand, I feel like voiceover is fulfilling in the sense that we're doing, everyone knows that you're doing what you love, but you're doing something that you feel comfortable in. Yeah. But the times when you are really connected to the material is actually fewer, because when you're coming into the booth, it's a lot of times the first time you're seeing the script. And so for me, when I see people, this is the older generation of me coming out, and the cynical me. When I see people that are like, so excited to announce that I'm doing my knee-jerk reaction is, but are you? Do you went in for one session? You went in for two sessions? Are you really connected to that project that you did 3 hours on that took 10 years to make? Really? Like and so I have to rein that in and be like, well, there could be other aspects they're excited about. But where that comes from is the fact that I feel like a lot of times in VO, what takes precedent is the time and how many cues you're getting through per hour, as opposed to something like on a film set or on stage, where those things are, you're cognizant of those things, but they don't shove their way to the front of the crowd as much as in voiceover, I feel like. And that's not to say that voiceover isn't something that I love to do or that you love to do. Obviously, that's a given, because it does require the hard work that you're talking about. But I think getting into the nuance of why those different avenues are all acting, but they're all different, because a lot of times I think when the question that I get asked a lot, and I'm sure you do too, is, what's it like in the business? How do you get into the business, et cetera? Yeah. And I think those are one of the bigger differences. Absolutely. And just a comment, and then I have a quick little tidbit based on what you were just saying, but I think, and when I think about someone like you and I look at your work, and I absolutely agree, sometimes you're walking in there and you've got to make, the most out of seeing those lines for the first time, or hearing that reference and doing your best to honor it and giving a truthful and comparable performance. I've always seen you in all of these roles that I've enjoyed and that most people have enjoyed,
always elevate that material where, you know, you can do your kind of best imitation of what you're hearing from, if it's a Japanese dub or if you're doing something. I've always seen your individuality shine through in these very nuanced moments, which is so hard to do a lot of the time in voiceover, where you're not sitting down with the director and talking about, well, I think about this for the character, I want to see it go this way. It's like, no, this has already been done. We have to follow this to a certain percentage. You got to hit these marks. You got to say the line at this pace. We got to hit, you know, come in on these beeps. But I've always, in the work that you do, I find such nuance. And I was watching like a video before this. It's like a 20-minute long video someone put together of your characters. And I'm just, you know, watching it down. And I mean, there's a lot of similarities. You know, obviously you're you and you're going to pull from different moments. But there's I'm like, wait, what? That's also you? I'm like, you did that too? And there's such specificity. And I feel like you have, in an instrument that's relatively, just from a speaking voice, similar to mine, I'm like, shit, it inspires me to be like, that can be mine. You can find those moments of yourself, and to know from doing this that you got to walk in and sometimes find that immediately and create that authenticity immediately. It shows me somebody who knows what they're doing, and maybe it's devoid of doing the zip, zap, zop stuff, and you've done that enough to just have that work into your bones. You really just do create a lot of really nuanced and fun and explosive and off-the-charts characters that I just think are fantastic. So that's
Paul, thank you, and I thank you again for your kind vibes. Thank you for that, and I.
It's all truth, though, too. I'm not saying this to blow smoke. I really believe this.
Well, you know, the thing for me is, and I just thought of this right when it sparked a thing that I hadn't thought about before, is that, you know, I when I was a kid, I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to draw. And the reason that I failed in that mission is because my art didn't look like all the people that I was inspired by. And so no one told me that that's okay. You're creating your own path. It doesn't need, in fact, it shouldn't look like all that art, because then how do you have your voice?
Yeah.
No one told me that. So I thought, my stuff doesn't look like that. Well, then I'm going to give up. And so, and the same with on camera, because I did on camera after stage. I was inspired by the actors that I had seen in a lot of films, that I followed their filmography, but then also what I got noticed for a lot was my impressions of them. So I would essentially mimic what I saw them do, and that got me a lot of notice. So then when we get to VO, and this sounds counterintuitive, but I don't watch a lot of other performances, because I wonder, and this is me thinking out loud, I wonder if it's because I don't want to mimic, what I, like with art or with on camera, I don't want to become a doppelganger.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing VO, that's the one avenue of the industry where I'm just like, let me get in there and try to make my own sauce and hope that someone wants to eat it and they're not allergic to it.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if that is, I don't know if that hurt or helped ultimately, but I used to be a mimic for all these different little art things that I would do. And so I guess it's just a balance of being inspired, and then taking the nutrients from that inspiration, but still going and making your own smoothie over here, I guess. And so that's what I guess I try to do. I mean, there's no denying that talented folks that you and I both know, like when I look at a Chris Sabat or, a Rob Paulson or so many actors, Mark Hamill, you can't help but it's almost like when you look at words, you can't not read them. Yeah. Because your brain just is. So when you watch performances from those actors, you can't help but feel a little flame inside. And so past that, though, I try to really kind of stay in my lane. Yeah. So that I don't end up copying or, I don't know, that's just me, but everybody's got a different flavor.
It's so funny you say that, too, because I was listening to something, and there was, I guess right before this, it's a video of the Japanese voice actor for Natsu in Fairy Tale, for anybody listening, and then I'm listening to you, and you guys don't have the same vocal quality or texture to you. But the thing that I noticed is that you have the same essence. And when I watched Fairy Tale when I was younger, I was watching it in the English dub, and I never was really familiar with the Japanese. So I was just fascinated to be like, oh, I couldn't, my brain couldn't help but wonder to like the producers or whoever makes the decisions of the casting at that moment and been like, not necessarily like, sound for sound similarity when you think like, they're going to want something to sound as close as possible, but your essence was absolutely there. But also there was your nuance on top of it. Like when they showed the comparisons of the scene by scene, which to me, going back to like watching these auditions, because sometimes we get these auditions now and it's for very big titles. Very recently, I auditioned for something where a reference existed and my brain was like, oh, should I listen to what they did already? But then there's that other devil or angel on the shoulder saying, no, do what you do and, show them your flavor. And if it's right and it's got that same essence, if you understand the character, maybe that's more important. And maybe you're going to crutch or handicap yourself if you start saying like, oh, but it doesn't sound just like that. Make your voice a little deeper. Make your voice a little gruffer. But it's like, I always find that when I'm doing my best and when I book things, it's always when I'm ignoring that and I'm just doing and I'm looking at it as an actor and saying like, what is the choice that I would make? What is it that I resonate with? And I wonder if that makes any sense to you in your process with things.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like with going back to just the on-camera aspect of things, like I think that theater actually hurt me when I first came out to LA, because when I was going into these film auditions, whether it was on the Warner lot or wherever in a small casting office in West Hollywood, I would approach it the same way as I would a theater script. And thinking back on how I did those auditions, I was actually not doing it properly, because for theater, as you know, we got to play to the back of the house, and that doesn't mean big and fake. It just means a little bit bigger. Yeah. It's like when people say, don't give me an anime read, or anime reads we don't like. It's like, well, anime reads fit anime because it's so colorful and the movement is exaggerated that if you didn't do an anime read for like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, it would seem out of place. Yeah. And so with film acting, when I was doing these auditions, I was approaching the character creation and the movement and the projection from a theater perspective, because quite honestly, when you're auditioning for an on-camera thing, it's like a theater. You're in a proscenium setting. Yes, there's a camera, but there's the audience, and there are two chairs, and you can't help but be like, well, this must be a stage thing. But what I should have done was brought more of whatever it is I bring to the table as just the only Todd Haberkorn on the planet, and you the only Paul, Castro Jr. on the planet, whatever it is we bring into the door. I should have been okay with that. But I think where that comes from for me is the overcompensation was for me when I was on stage. I was always a character actor, so I always studied nuance and vocal things and physicalities that I would bring to characters. Didn't need that in the on-camera audition. And I felt like I needed to overcompensate also because I was told by a lot of casting directors, well, we don't know what to do with your look. You're not, they've literally said, you're not this blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy over here, and you're not this full-blown Asian over here, which I don't take offense to. I think too many times today, in my opinion, I think a lot of times people get hung up on the slight. So when they're told like, we don't know what to do with your look, or you don't look like this, or you don't look like that, they get hung up on that. Yeah. And they go, oh my God, I have been stabbed through the heart and my life is over because this one person thinks that my skin tone or which is what I've been on the receiving end of, doesn't fit. And that's it. I'm checking out. Whereas whenever I've encountered that, call it, clickiness, racism, whatever it's called. Sure. It's different labels, but it's all the same thing. Yeah. I just didn't fit that particular project. But for me, I never thought of it as like an injustice. I thought of, well, I'm not the right flavor for that person sitting at that table. They don't like my beet juice. They like pineapple juice. So they need to go find pineapple juice, and I'm going to go find someone that likes beet juice.
Yeah.
And so that's what I have done my whole life, not because I was, operating on a different level of thinking or elevate. It's just because I was like, well, there's two ways around this. I could sit here and lament my position, but I'm still not going to get through that wall. I could try to go around the wall. I could go through the wall. I was just trying to always think of different ways to deal with the hurdle before me. And I think that that has hopefully served me well. And I hope that we can, I hope that other people are doing that as well, because that's, when you do that, I think you hold on to your individual spark more. I feel like.
I think you're so right.
Because, there's a lot of political and non-political and all sorts of viewpoints on everything around this industry, and has to be navigated very carefully, of course. But I think that a lot of times we're not even allowed to talk about it in a way. And so, that's my little dip into that world right there. But yeah.
I know. Sorry, my thing just like hiccuped for a second, but I totally understand your sentiment. It's a very interesting industry, and we have to. I just think because it's so competitive too, you're never going to be right for every little thing. And I experienced kind of similar things when I was, I did a lot of on-camera and TV when I was starting out, and I'm all of 5'4" on a good day with good shoes on. And, when I'm going in for a lot of these roles, it could be as simple as them saying, well, you're shorter than the lead girl that we're casting, and that's just not going to work for us. We don't have the Tom Cruise budget to put an apple box under you for every shot, so.
But I bring my own.
Yeah, I come with my own. I wear stilts, so it's one of those things where you say carving your own path and finding your unique individuality. I think just oftentimes for most people, when you look at their stories, that becomes the thing that leads to some sort of success for them in life. And I know that it's. I would love to shift gears, go back a hair a second, because I know you started out pursuing theater and eventually you found your way to Funimation and voice acting. But I would love to know, prior to all of this, and there's a decision in your life to say, I'm going to go to college for acting or for theater. What was the moment in your life where you found performance, or you had at least made that decision to say, this is something I'm going to pursue professionally?
Well, I started with stage when I was 10. That was my first play, and musical. And I think the reason I stuck with it was a combination of things. One, it allowed me to not be me for little bits of time, because I didn't like my world, because I have a lot of storm clouds in my life growing up, and anything to get away from that was attractive. And then also I realized that when I was spending all these hours on stage, rehearsing, etc., they went by in a flash. And I was like, wow, I could go do that again. And I was tired from the long day, but I was like, I didn't lose my enthusiasm. And so those were just little markers, like kind of like when you're a kid and you have your first crush. You don't know why you have that crush. Yeah. But you're like, I like that person. I don't know why, but I like that person. So it's the same kind of thing, that you get these little signs that you are crushing on a path. Yeah. And so then I just stuck with it. And in terms of college, that was a very easy decision, because my mom goes, if you walk out that door and you don't go to college and you go straight to LA, you're on your own. If you go to college, I will take care of college for you. And I was like, all right,
pretty easy
decision made.
Yeah, pretty easy decision made.
Yeah. So
that's why you decided to go to college. You decided to pursue theater because you found that love for it. And then how soon after college do you make the choice? Because you grew up in Texas, correct? Mm-hmm. And then, or Arlington, Texas, if the internet serves some sort of truth here.
I was born there, and there's a lot of moving around, but Texas I spent a lot of years in.
Sure. So after college, what is kind of your first move then after you've received your degree? What is the time in between you graduating and you finding your way at Funimation?
Not long. I think it was 2 years because I had grand plans. I was going to get my equity contract and go to New York and be an actor. and I did. I got my equity contract because I was going to work on a production, and I pulled the director aside. And again, I don't have a template for any of this.
Yeah.
I'm just like, let me just try this and see what happens. And I went to the director and he goes, I want you for this show. And I said, well, I want to go to New York. So I've got to have an equity contract. And it's not a mean ultimatum, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I just had my son. And so I'm like, I got to start thinking about, these $600 for 8 weeks of a play are great, but I got to start thinking about the fact that I got a kid.
Yeah.
And so Renee Moreno was the director.
I know Renee.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, Renee. He went to bat for me. And he got me that contract. And then what I think back, it took years. So okay. It's like a choose your own adventure.
Great.
So like I did that play. So thankful that he did that. But then Funimation came out of the blue and then ate all my time. So it shifted gears because I wasn't going to argue with where the universe was telling me it wanted me to go. But it took years. I'd already been in LA for years. And one day I sat there and I go, oh shit, I wonder if Renee thinks I used him to get that contract. And then I just didn't go to New York. I wonder if he looks at that and goes like, this fucking kid. So I wrote him out of the blue years later. And I go, Renee, I just want to say thank you again for that contract. And I hope it didn't look like I was like pulling a fast one on you by not going to New York. And he goes, you know what? I didn't even think about that, but thank you. But I'm so glad I did, because then when he passed on not too long after, but I'm so glad I at least got that mystery out of the way. But yeah, no, Funimation came rather quickly, and it would never happen this way now. It just wouldn't happen this way now, because Funimation is on a scale that it just wasn't at the time. It's like when Chris got Dragon Ball Sabbath.
Yeah.
He plays like 22 characters in it. It's not because he's like, I want all the characters. It's because they had no budget, they had no people, and they just needed to get it done.
Yeah.
If you could have seen the original building, it was like being held up with, okay, is that gum holding that up there? Okay, wow, spearmint. But yeah, so it wouldn't. So when I got to Funimation, the trajectory was something that would not happen now.
Yeah.
Just because there's I feel like. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I don't do this and I don't understand this myself when I'm casting, there's a lot of times when people are casting, they're like, I want new just for the sake of new. And for me, I don't subscribe to that, because I'm like, you're just getting to the good part of the cigar. That'd be like smoking a cigar, and right when you get to the good part, you're like, okay, I want a different cigar now. It's like, no, get with those. Like, if I work with Paul on 5 different projects, okay, let's go on to the 6th, because now we have a good unspoken language that you know what I like, and I know what you're going to give me. Look at Quentin Tarantino. Look at Christopher Nolan. They work with the same people their entire career, and I don't know why we're so allergic to that in voiceover. I'm fine with changing up the cast if it needs to change, but but in my opinion, if your reason is just to try something new or just to see what's out there, for me, I don't agree with that, because I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel and create the Noah's VO arc and bring every single voice actor from across the planet with me. It's like there are a million projects going on.
Yeah.
If I use my crew that I like to use, it doesn't mean that the 50 other projects on this side of West Hollywood are using my people. They're using all sorts of new people. So there's opportunities for everybody, everybody of all walks of life, all genders, all skin colors and races and AI and everything like that. There's plenty for everybody. So if I'm going to use the crew that I feel comfortable with and work well with, and we can create those memories, I still get actors that come up to me that we worked on a project years ago. And they still recall it and they still remember it because we took our time, because I tried to get to know them as a person first. And as we developed and worked through the project together. And I know that is in short supply on a lot of these projects that we work on. So I try to cultivate that as best as I can. There are projects that both of you and I have gone in on where it's like 10:30 at night. So there's no time for nuance. There's no time for, because what pleasantries are you going to have at 10:30 at night when you're like, well, fuck, after this, I got to drive 45 minutes to get back home and get ready for bed. It's like, so when you can find those moments when you can build in the nuance and have it, I want to hold on to that. And so that's me. But yeah,
I know I agree so much, and I think it's an important thing to hear, because a lot of people, because of social media to a certain degree, and because there's so many different streaming platforms, there's so much more content being made. There's a lot more people, I think, pursuing these arts than ever before. I think we're constantly, or at least the younger generations now, like I'm not, I gotta consider myself young here. I gotta hold on to that. But people consuming TikTok every day, everything seems so capable. Everything seems so tangible where, and that's great. And I think inspiring everybody to feel like they have the power to pursue anything they want in life is amazing. But when, like you're saying, you're oftentimes working with studios, or you need to make something good and quality, sometimes for big companies and corporations, and working with the same people who you know and you can trust is a way you can mitigate that loss or that risk of that company coming back to you and saying, wait, all of this doesn't work here. That person, I don't know who they are. I've never worked with them. Why is this all sound off? We got to recast, or X, Y, and Z. Any of these things that could happen but may not necessarily happen.
When I work on projects and I cast projects, one of the things that I always fight for, because I've been in those situations that you mentioned, is that I will always fight for the actor's budgeted rate. So if I bring in Paul and we schedule it and it says we're supposed to have you for 3 days and you knock it out in one, I'm going to pay you for those 3 days. Because we've already budgeted for it. So if it doesn't, it's not like I'm going to take that. It absorbs back into the studio cloud. Too many times, especially in the early days in VO, for me it was being efficient. Just basically, the slower people got rewarded fiscally, and then I'm sitting there like,
why?
So I've noticed that there are quite a few studios that mitigate that, and they don't let that happen. There are one or two in town that are like, oh, you noticed that. Like, so it's there's not a one-stop shop for all of it. It's a per studio thing, but yeah, no, I agree.
I think your sentiment is the best case scenario, and I wish more people would be like that, and hopefully studios allow for that type of thing. And if you can fight for it as someone on the production side, that's amazing. And I think actors need to be treated with respect. I mean, we don't make enough money on these session fees sometimes to be able to take that away from someone. That could be their rent payment potentially, or pay their mortgage, or getting diapers. Who knows what it is? I think, and I've been in that scenario in many different occasions where, I won't say these particular projects, but I've been on projects where I've been called in for, 15 minutes, and they've paid me for the 2 hours or 4 hour minimum, whatever it is. And I appreciate that. And I've also been in for things and they're like, hey, we forgot to record this. Do you mind just doing this for us just to get this? 'Cause we don't want the studio to be mad. So I've seen all aspects of it and I can understand it, but ultimately, and I think that's what a lot of these unions are fighting for right now. And hopefully, with the writer's strike and inevitably looking like for SAG to make sure that a lot of these things under union contracts, you're guaranteed those things and you're guaranteed a fair wage because it's hard.
Yes, and I think that it doesn't even have to be about, well, this is money for rent, or this is money for your time and your talent.
Even more important.
So, and I feel like we are the reason that I feel like sometimes that we don't have more pull as an industry is because there are a lot of people in it that are cool with just taking the scraps.
Yeah, too many.
And they're because when they think about getting in the industry, they'll do anything to get into it.
Yeah.
And they're like, if that means that
And
I
stay
got to
in.
do something for 12 cents a line, I will do it because then I can say I'm a voice actor. And that's, on one hand, it's like, wow, the industry has that much pull that people are so excited by it that they'll do that. But then on the other hand, I think the reason they think that is because so often I think voiceover, we're actually magicians. So magicians in the sense that when you see a finished product, you don't see the hours of editing and production and rehearsal and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, the writing to get to that point. You just see the finished magic trick.
Yeah.
So you think, like what you're saying on TikTok, like I think that with influencers just naturally, you see this finished polished video and it's like, oh yeah, I'll whip out 12 of those today before breakfast. It's like, no, they take hours of editing and color correction and sound design.
Yeah.
I know that for my own videos, for sure. But I think that because they only see the magic trick, it's like I always say this, when you go to a concert and you see an amazing guitar solo, so effortless. You don't think about the hours of rehearsal. You're not supposed to. They're not there to make you think about that. They just want to put on a show. And I think that's what we do. And a side effect of that is that everyone thinks, well, I can do that. Look how easy it is. And so because of that, when they do get there, they're like, oh, yeah, sure. $1 for this session. Sure. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
So that snowballs into kind of where we are right now.
Yeah.
And it's mentioning the WGA and such, because these studios, not all of them, some do really care, but they're rare. Mm-hmm. More often than not, they're going to do whatever they can to increase their earnings per quarter. And if that involves you, great. If it doesn't, they have the same great feeling. Yeah. And so that's why I don't understand when actors bend over backwards and sacrifice so much of themselves and their energy for studios that the next day they'll drop you. Yeah. They have no problem dropping you. Yep. And so that's what caused me to cultivate more of a work-life balance, because when I realized that these studios that I was breaking my back for, they appreciate it, but when push comes to shove, they ain't going to fight for me. Nope. And so once you realize that, I really feel like it unlocks a balance that allows you to enjoy both aspects of your life more. The work you're enjoying more because you are choosing to be there. And then your personal life you enjoy more because you're choosing to be there. Yeah. And I feel like there's so much of a scarcity mindset with a lot of young actors that think that they have to sacrifice at the altar of VO to make it. And if they don't, the gods will smite them down. And it's like, it's not that. They're just literally, when I'm casting, I'm just trying to get this problem solved so I can move on to the next one. Yep. I'm not sitting here saying like, who sent me a gift this year? Who sent me some, I don't sit there and think about that shit. I'm like, who's going to be great for this project? Do I like working with them? Are they easy to work with? Do they have some credits? Can I hear some examples? Great. Boom. Okay. Paul's in that role. Let's move on. Yeah. So I think it's less mystical than people think it is. Yeah. And I think that if they can realize that actually empowers them. Yeah. So
I think so many actors function from that. I hate to say this word because I feel like it's so dirty, but this feeling of desperation and at all costs, anything will be done or sacrifice their health. Think about the amount of people who have screened themselves for 4 hours and have lost their voice and lost gigs because of trying to please these people in front of them. And that's a very dangerous place to function from. And I think I think this saying, I don't know who coined it, but, the idea that talent is undeniable. And if you have a talent that you've harnessed and you are a good worker, you're someone who's a nice person to work with, that inevitably, if you keep showing up to bat, you're going to hit a home run at some point. And
yeah. And I think that you know this intrinsically because you're a theater major, because you put the training in, that passion's not enough.
Yeah.
People say that because I see it all the time on panels. I'll do panels with other actors and they're like, love what you do. And if you don't love it, do something else. And I used to be cool with that ideology, but it's actually not enough. That's like saying, I've got a gallon of milk. Well, why isn't it ice cream right now? You need more than milk. You need more than passion. You need sugar. You need a cooling agent to make it. You need flavoring and toppings, all of those things. Then it becomes ice cream. So just passion alone is not enough to make it in this industry. And so many times people are like, well, what gear should I get? I don't want to spend a lot of money. And it's like, well, guess what? If the dentist can't afford dentistry school and the dentist can't get the tools they need to be a dentist, they're not a dentist. So I think that it's understanding that it takes more than passion.
Yeah.
It's going to take the technical know-how. It's going to take the talent, like you mentioned. It will take the passion, but it can't only be that. They say that about marriages. Passion isn't enough.
Yes.
You have to have good communication skills.
Yep.
You have to connect on a level with your partner physically. You have to, there's all these things that make it work.
Yes.
And I think too many times the message that is put out there is, if you're passionate enough, you can do it. And it's not enough.
Yes.
And it's not to be discouraging. It's to enlighten. It's to say, hey, if you're just passionate, great. Now add to it.
Yeah.
You've got the pot. You put the broth in. Where are the vegetables?
Yeah.
So it's that's what you need.
I appreciate you sharing this, and it's so important, I think, for especially young people who are getting into this industry or a similar industry to understand that, because I've seen in my life, and I'm sure you've seen this countless more times than I have, the people who are fans of anime and their fandom of appreciation for the things that they love inspires them to want to get them involved in doing it.
Sure.
And I think that that's a great start, but it can't be the only pillar in which you found your entire career upon. You have to then find the love for, like you said, understanding everything about acting and understanding the thing about the technicalities of having a home studio and understanding how equipment works and understanding mic technique and placement and how to, curate agents and jobs and work. There's so much to it other than just being in love with fairy tale.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I love art. I love comic book artists are so fucking talented.
Yeah.
But that's not enough for me to become a comic book artist. I don't know what the fuck to do with a pen. So it's it's the same kind of ideology there. So yeah, exactly what you're saying. So, which again, because you've put all those different aspects into play, and then you are where you are.
Well, to a certain degree, I've only and similar to you, and this is where this question will be inspired by. When I started, I learned very quickly in my journey, which isn't the case for other people, because I saw some of my classmates in college leave college and get a recurring role on a TV show. People that I thought I was more talented than. And I learned really quickly that did not matter, how talented I thought I was. And it was not going to be enough for me because of the things I wanted in life. And it wasn't going to be enough to sit back and wait for the auditions. I had to figure out how to do film production, how to learn about making my own studio and being able to work in all different facets of the industry, which I've seen, just through your history. I mean, you have touched so much of what is available to someone, not just in voiceover, but in entertainment. And when for you, because you have your own studio, you have, the Habertat, when did all of this knowledge become apparent to you and to say, I want to make my own studio, I want to move to LA, or I want to do more than just being a person behind the microphone?
My whole life, because I always was like, for example, when I first got to Funimation, I was like, how do I become a writer? How do I become a director here? And I pissed off a lot of people at Funimation because there were people, I remember sitting down with a particular director who's in town, and he goes, the first thing he said, not this director. So the first thing that was said was
conflating people pissed off.
Yeah, I'm mad at you because I've been here 4 years and you just got here and already you're writing on a show, and it's. So I was always trying to do more.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that and oftentimes, like when I was working on they announced it, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Sure. I would direct and engineer those sessions at the same time. I'm comfortable with that, but I don't ever want to take a job from an engineer.
Yeah.
I've been engineering for 20 years, but that doesn't mean that I want to take that from somebody, because I think that there is a movement sometimes for speaking about the mechanics of VO to where to try to get the budget down. They're like, hey, you engineer, why don't you go ahead and direct this as well? I
mean, that's how the industry was founded.
Yeah. And I don't ever want to move that part of the industry along.
Yeah.
But I know how to do all those things.
Sure.
And I writing scripts and adapting scripts, I know how to do all those things. I think for me that's because I just had idle hands and I didn't have a good work-life balance. And so I was trying to dive into all these different aspects and cinematography and, gaffing and, editing and all this stuff. So I loved doing that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I always want to learn more. I'm actually getting recertified in Final Cut now. I'm certified in it, but I'm getting recertified because I don't know. I just like doing that stuff. But yeah, no, it's definitely, it works for me. There are a lot of people that don't do any of that. And they're just like, I'm going to be an actor and that's it. And that's cool too. Mm-hmm. Just for me, I geek out on gear.
Yeah.
And so I like the gear. But yeah, there's also, I think because of how accessible all of that stuff is, that's also why people think, well, I can just do it because I can go to Best Buy and I can get all the gear. And again, it's like, I could take a guitar, I could play it, and then Joe Perry can play it.
Yeah.
And it's a very different universe when he plays it. So it's keeping that in mind. But again, this industry is it's so fickle, and it pushes and pulls you in all these different ways, because on one hand, it's like you believe in yourself and there's only one you, and you're the best you can be, and you're okay right now. And then at the same time, the industry is saying like, well, don't get cocky. Don't be arrogant. This you need to be humble. Which is it? Humble or believe I'm the shit? I don't know. What do you want from me? So the industry, basically what I'm saying is the industry is sometimes like an ex.
Yeah.
So
it's so true. It's such a, oh God, the same way. I mean, I listen to podcasts all the time, and you hear about these people who, you're Charlie Day, a fantastic actor from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He just made a movie, Fool's Paradise, where he talked. That's kind of the premise of the thing. Is Hollywood will say, it's that I think the story was like the Jack Black synonym, where it's like, who's Jack Black? Get me Jack Black. Get me the next Jack Black. Like that idea of Hollywood is so. It's so volatile of how quickly you can be the hottest thing, and how you could be pushed out the next and in the next moment, regardless of your skill or your hard work or the amount of hours you've gone to classes. All of these separate things. It's hard to. And I think that's why I just like to have these conversations with people, is to just hear these different stories and also opinions and how their experiences in the industry like yours, because there is no rule book to any of this. And you can,
yes, and I think that's why it's important that people don't hitch their entire worth on this industry.
Yeah.
Because it is so fickle, and you can only control one little tiny aspect of it, and that's you. So, but if you hitch all your worth to this business, that's why you have people posting about feeling real dark right now on my public diary that I'm writing. Yeah. I could use some encouragement. It's like, because as long as you keep needing to feed off the machine and the social media machine and the industry machine, your cup will never get full.
Yep.
So that's why once I discovered that hack, and I was like, you know what, work-life balance is more important. I'm going to put my worth in other things that I have more command over.
Yeah.
It made me a lot happier. And I think, in speaking to what you were saying earlier about talent, how you felt like, you saw classmates that got things and you're like, well, the talent level, I'm not really seeing it.
Yeah.
All you have to do is think about McDonald's. Is McDonald's the best burger in the world? fuck no. But they've sold billions.
Yeah.
There's 5 better burger spots in this vicinity.
Yeah.
But so it's not, so just because they got that doesn't mean they're more talented. And it's exactly what you were saying earlier. It's like, you know what? The lead actress is just a little taller than you. So it's all of those things factored in. And so that's why you can't put all your worth on that, because you have no control over all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what goes back to your original point of just being your unique little quark in the galaxy of atoms. That's all you can do.
Well, I'm glad you tied that up into some logical sense on my end, because sometimes I feel like I'm just talking out of my ass, but you're so right. And just to comment quickly, and I think it's important because a lot of people who, how do I say this? Twitter can be a great thing, and I think it's really good for some people, but I have noticed, because I'm on the newer side of this, of talent coming into this industry, so I see a lot of my peers at a very similar level in my career path, if you can gauge that anyway. It does become that forum, very similar to like an online diary, where you're seeing somebody's experience the volatility of this industry, like live and in person. And that volatility then becomes the only thing that they can display and share, which I think is a very dangerous place as an artist to be, where you've put so much stock into what this industry gives you that then the harder times of this industry then become like, I'm not getting these jobs. I need you all to know this and how unfair this is, and I find Twitter becoming that kind of cesspool for negativity sometimes.
Yes, it does become that. It absolutely can become that. And it does become that.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Animal Hope and Wellness. They're an organization in Sherman Oaks, actually, and through social media, they post things that they're Animal Hope and Wellness. They post things that are very hard to watch sometimes, but through that messaging, they catch these people. So like, just to give you a real quick downer, there's a dude in Mexico. He was drunk. He walks out of a bar. There's a dog right there. He takes a dog. There is a vat. This isn't a cartoon. This sounds like a cartoon. There's a vat of oil.
Yeah.
He tosses that dog in this boiling oil. The dog did nothing. Dog is screaming. He was cooked up, boiled alive, dead.
Yeah.
And the guy just took off.
Yeah.
But through social media, they were able to, do the born identity thing, like zoom, enhance.
Yep.
And they figured out who this guy was. They caught him. They arrested him. And so, I see this happen all the time. They share it and they catch these people.
Yeah.
So that is where I would say social media does help. But a lot of times I think people do forget two things. They think that social media is the real world.
Yeah.
And then the second thing they think is that, again, they hitch their worth to things they can't control. Mm-hmm. So like when you see someone post online something about, feeling good today, feeling sassy, and they post a picture, you may get 1,000 likes. And then you get 2 people that go like, gross.
Yeah.
And you're going to think about those 2 people that you've never met. You will never know. You don't even know where in the world they live, how old they are. What do they do? You have nothing about that. But that cuts to the core. So the fucker that said words don't hurt and, sticks and stones may bullshit. Yeah. This generation, our existence, words fucking hurt. So it's important to keep those things in mind, I think, when posting on social media. And so that's why it's not the real world. Yeah. Again, it's just magic. Yeah. It's all magic. So are you going to be on the dark side of the force or the light side?
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think you are somebody who does, like, you're somebody when not to say that there isn't, like you said, there's these companies that, trust me, I've been vegan for almost a decade now. And I've seen my
love that, Paul. Well, I love that.
I've seen the Yulon Dog Festival. I've exposed myself to the worst of the worst things, and it really opened my eyes. And I implore more people to consume as much as they can to understand what this world is about and the things that we put in our body, etc. But I also understand that when you're on social media, this can be a place where we spread positivity. It doesn't have to fuel off of controversy at all times. And you have been somebody who there is always a laugh, or there is always a smile. And even like I was like watching your YouTube videos about this new series that you've been doing, where like I've come to learn that there are 30 times less rhinos in the world than there are Taylor Swift followers. So, like these things are important, and I think I'm someone who loves this to spread the positivity, because there's going to be dark holes everywhere we look, whether we like it or not. So,
yes, that's a great point, and that's awesome that you have been vegan for so long. It's animals always need a helping hand. The environment always needs a helping hand. And in turn, it helps you, as you know. And I think too many times when people are like, how do you get your protein? It's like, well, gorillas don't eat meat.
The biggest animal in the jungle? Yeah, they are.
and so many times, and I think that meat is kind of a religion, and I think people get really offended when you attack the things that they put their identity and worth in. So it's a really hard uphill battle. But for me, I'm like you. It's like once I saw the devastation that was happening to animals and the environment, and reading about it, and listening to what's his name, Greg Yourofsky, and watching his videos, it's like you can't, if you are not moved by that, I don't want to be in a locked room with you, because I feel like you have no empathy. And so I think so many times the other argument, which I know you've heard, is like, yeah, but they're taken care of humanely.
Oh God.
And it's like,
no
okay,
such thing as humane slaughter. Let's at least put that out there.
Yes, let's go to a court of law, and let's say a guy kills somebody.
Yeah.
But when he tells the judge, he's like, but judge, I treated him humanely before I killed him. That's not going to fly. And we do that to the tune of billions of pounds of animals a year.
Yeah.
And it fucking sucks. Yep. And so it's awesome that you're on Team Light.
Yeah. Well,
and that's impressive.
Likewise. And I think it's one of those things where, and trust me, there was a point in time in my life, as I'm sure there was for you, where you were not of this mindset, and you maybe
totally.
And so I understand that with people, and everybody has their own journey. But the thing that always really tickles me is when someone says, I'm not a vegan, but I'm an animal lover. It's like, isn't that kind of a contradiction? Like, I love all animals, but not the ones. I even love the animals that I eat. I just love them so much. I know. It's like that to me. I think it's an education thing, and that's why it's an important conversation to have, and to talk about it on these various different platforms that are. I mean, honestly, truth be told, being vegan for me is in this industry that often requires long hours, or blowing my voice out behind a microphone. My diet has drastically changed the type of person I am in terms of fitness and overall health. Not that that's the reason I went vegan. I went vegan for the animals, but being a vegan has had only positive influences on my life as a voice actor. So if you want to make some kind of stretch of connective tissue between the two, there it is. I'm able to endure.
Well, I mean, and also, pigs are smarter than dogs, and also when you see these videos of calves being taken away from their moms, and the cows are crying. You can't. People turn away from that because it's uncomfortable, but imagine how uncomfortable it is for the animal about to be hung by its leg and throat slit.
Yeah.
How uncomfortable it is for them. So it's something that I think too many times we try to customize, speaking about social media, etc. We try to customize the planet around us to be only things that make us comfortable.
Yeah.
Like we are living in a giant app. And it's like, well, if I don't want to see that, I can cut that out, and it no longer exists. If I don't want to have an uncomfortable conversation with that person, I cut them out, and it no longer exists. But that's not the world. No. I forget who said it. I think it was it Ricky Gervais? He was like, how arrogant are we that we think we should never feel discomfort on this planet, that we should never feel anything but amazing feelings all the time.
Yeah.
And that's so true. I tend to be a little bit of a shit stirrer, not because I try to poke people, but I do try to point out oddities in their thinking. Because why? Because I don't ever want to walk away from a conversation and wished I would have. It doesn't mean be a dick.
Yeah.
But it means, hey, it's like, part of veganism and part of just being a good person, I feel like is number one, just spreading the word a little bit, as you said, just give a little bit of information. But, some people may not even be aware of some of the aspects of it. And why not say something? And if they don't like it, then you won't ever have to talk about it again, I guess. But if they become interested in it, like for example, Mrs. Haberkorn, she wasn't at all. And then I showed her some videos, talked with her about it, and she turned over to the lifestyle, and she came over to this side, and she comes from she's Latin Spanish, and so like very heavy meat diet, seafood and all that. And so for her to do that is amazing, and it shows that it can work. And I hope that just for the planet, I mean, we keep seeing these warnings from scientists like climate change is really fucking with us. Yeah. We gotta hurry this up. And then people are like, yeah, but not in this lifetime. No, you're living in it. Like you're experiencing it right now. That's why it was 114 last summer. Yep. And so it's, I'm right there with you. Like, it's awesome that you do that and you spread the word and you fight the good fight, because all the animals, the sad thing is that we will always dominate them, and we will always be stronger than them. Yeah. So why not look at another way to be? Why not look at the possibility that, well, just because I can take this dog and snap its neck, why not do that? Yeah. Well, just because we can doesn't mean we should. Like with AI, just because we can do that, why should we go that way? Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, basically, Paul, the message is we are the villains of this planet. We're the villains of Earth's story. That's why it's like, you know what? I bet I could create a virus. Oh, God. You know what I mean? And then Earth's like, that one didn't work. We'll cook something else up. That's what I feel like is. I mean, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Yeah. This planet.
It is. I mean, it's part of the reason why I like chilling with animals more than humans to a certain degree, because, it's like us humans, we are the villains of this story to a certain degree. And it's,
I think to a certain degree. And I think that it makes the people the humans that have empathy, the ones that care, makes them stand out even more. The ones that are inspired by joyous things and benevolent things as opposed to destructive and violent things, those people stand out even more and should be raised up and should be elevated so much more. And it's you know what the thing is both options of being cost the same amount. They're free. So, you could choose. Yep. So, no, it's so true. And I thank you for being one of those people who kind of speaks on that and shares that lifestyle. I've seen you talk about it various times, and I think it's just, again, back to just being positive in this life, in this industry especially. We're going to see enough darkness. We're going to see enough of the tragedy in life. We're going to experience pandemics and the economy. Why not be somebody who can despite that, speak on positive things and try and share and encourage and being someone on the light side, as opposed to Anakin and turning to the convenience of the dark side and the easy power. I wanted to ask you, because I know you got to get going, and I want to make sure you can get to your this animal who needs your help as we speak upon this. We talk about a lot, and we've talked about a handful of your experiences so far, but this doesn't have to be related to the industry or not. But is there an experience you've had outside of the ones that we've spoke about, whether professional, personal? It can be professional, but something that you experienced and it changed your life or the way you're thinking. It gave you a message that you think is worth sharing, or just something that you went through that really changed you and other people hearing this story might benefit from. I know it's kind of a wide open answer and there's no real guardrails on that, but if one comes to the top of your head. I think when I went and worked at the Elephant Nature Park in Thailand, it's a sanctuary out there, and they make it their mission to obviously help elephants and provide a home. And in Laos means like land of 1 million elephants. There are only 400 wild elephants left. And so to go there and to see all these people come from all over the world, Germany, Canada, parts of the U.S., et cetera, to come together for a cause to just help these animals, to pay to help these animals. And the only repayment is the satisfaction of knowing that they're safe and fed and sheltered. That was really inspiring because it wasn't a question. It wasn't transactional. It wasn't this type of thing. So many times I feel like, especially in LA, we have very transactional relationships with each other to where like, I want to go out to lunch with this person because maybe I can get a gig out of it. And this was doing something just purely out of the joy of wanting to increase the bank account of goodness. Yeah. That was very inspirational for me to see people, the owners too, have dedicated their life to this and inspiring others. And that was something that will always stick with me. And I want to get back there. We were going to go to a rhino sanctuary in September, but it's in Africa. Where it is, I'm a little concerned that that'll be our last sanctuary we ever work at because we'll be dead. So we want to get back out there eventually, but I think we're gonna try to make another trip to this elephant sanctuary and get some more inspiration recharge.
Heck yeah. That sounds amazing. I mean, it's things that I've always been passionate about and I would love to get more involved in. So if anybody's interested, this is something that I think it only makes you feel better. If you're an empathetic human being, I think helping animals in need can only, like you said, feel you.
Even if it's just going to work at your local shelter, and so many of these animals that are in shelters, it's like if they don't get adopted within a very small window of time, they're killed. Yeah, kill shelters. And so you're not going to save them all. Yep. So don't let that overwhelm you. But as long as you just put in the effort, put in, because you never know, kind of like at the start of our conversation, you never know who you're going to inspire. Yeah. By something that's as nominal as volunteering at a shelter. Yep. You never know. And so if you don't do it, 100%, you know the answer is 0%. Yeah. And so it's at least get out there and try, I guess. You couldn't be more right. Todd, this has been a fantastic chat. It's been a pleasure to get to know you better. Thank you for doing everything that you do and creating all the stuff that you create and putting positive content out there in the world and encouraging other people to lean towards the light side if they have that choice. Because like you said, they are both free. Why not go to the one that oftentimes leads to a better experience of life? I would love to ask you if there's anything, dates that people should be aware of or things coming out that you would want them to know about. I know you have convention stuff coming up, so if there's anything you'd love to share. ToddHaberkorn.com has all my appearances and upcoming appearances. In terms of projects that have come out recently, Destiny 2, we just released a new DLC. Before that, Redfall. I hear it's going to get patched. I didn't make the game. I was just in it. And then there's more on the audiobook world. One of my favorite series to narrate, 24/7 Demon Mart. Two new books are coming out. I start a new RPG series today.
Heck
or
yeah.
tomorrow. There's Star Wars books coming out and all sorts of fun stuff. The Ancient Magus Bride Season 2 is out. We're rocking and rolling on that. Gosh, what other there's you'll see.
Yeah.
I'll post about it.
If they're not following you, I'm sure they will be after this. So and there's so much more I wanted to talk about with you, but I'm glad we got to really have a great conversation. Thank you for doing this, really, Todd. I really, really, really do appreciate it. And then good luck with everything. Good luck with the RPG series and life, and making sure that dog gets the proper care that they need, because that is what's most important here, folks.
Yes, and thank you, Paul, for being very lovely. Chatting with you, and you are a great breath of fresh air. So thank you for.
It's a shame that has to be the case, especially out here in Los Angeles. But I take that compliment and I appreciate it. Todd, thank you so much, everybody. Todd Haberkorn, really appreciate you coming on.
Sweet, we did it.
All right, take care. Gosh, what a great guy. We need more people like Todd, not just in this industry, but in this world, because it is right. We got the light side and the dark side. Why not just be fun and spread positivity and care about things and all that other great stuff that he does? he's been someone who I've looked up to. Funny enough, I'll probably mention this in the intro too, but someone who I really looked out as a North Star in a way in terms of career, of the type of career I would want to have if I'm going to pursue something in the voiceover industry. And he was nothing but kind to me in the interactions that we've had in my time in LA when I first moved here. So thank you, Todd. Again, I really do appreciate you coming on. And for anybody who is not following him, it's just always a bundle of joy. I believe he streams on Twitch as well. So check out his Twitch channel, his YouTube channel, where he's got a ton of fun videos in this new series that we, I think we talk about at the end of the episode, but definitely check that out as well. And his convention dates at his website, which will be linked in the description below. And if you haven't done this yet, most of you are not liking and subscribing to these videos. So if you're not subscribed already, make sure you do that right now. This is a perfect opportunity because you're about to go run to your job. You're just done with your drive, or you're about to finish your workout, or you're about to go embark on an adventure with Gandalf to throw the ring into the fires of Mount Doom. So before you do all that, follow, like, subscribe, leave us a review, and check out our Spotify Premium if you are so inclined. I appreciate you. I love you. Have a fantastic rest of your days. Bye!